the Houdini box is a fiction story. It is completely made up, but there's lots of facts in it too. So it makes it a historical fiction book. And it's all about this guy. This is Houdini. And these are real photographs of the gentleman. So he was born on April the 6th, 1874. And he died, dun, 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 on Halloween, October 31st, 1926, which is kind of amazing considering the fact that the man was a magician. Now, he was an escape artist, and he could escape from all kinds of things. So like this is really him, and they're putting him into a trunk, which will then be put into the ocean, and he could escape from it very quickly. And like there were all kinds of police officers who tried to see if they could fool him. So like they give him handcuffs, he got in them, out of them every single time. This was his most famous trick because he would be totally submerged in water and he would be inside there and his body was doubled up and his hands were chained. No problem. He got out anyway. No problem.
Houdinii Box by Brian Selznick. And look at this, guys. In 1994, he came to Lakeside. Brian Selznick. Isn't that too cool? So you could check this book out after I finish with it. Now, Brian Selznick starts this book off with some advertisements. These would be put up in the towns when Houdini was going to them, and it would tell people what they were about to see. And so this says water torture sale. Houdini would get inside this box and they would lock it up, and he had to get out of it before he drowned. Mm-hmm. He was also known as the king of handcuffs. Policemen from all over would bring different handcuffs trying to get him not to be able to escape. But Houdini always escaped. The Houdinii Box by Brian Selznick. Now, Selznick starts it off like this. A curious story of magic and escapology as performed by Harry Houdini and a little boy named Victor, with special appearances by Victor's mother, Aunt Harriet, and the lovely Mrs. Houdini. We begin. There he is. Houdini was a magician. He could pull rats from hats, make elephants disappear, and do 1,000 card tricks. Locks would fall open at his fingertips, and he could escape from ropes and chains and cabinets and coffins. People from around the world couldn't keep him in their jails, and the oceans and the sea couldn't drown him. Bolt Houdini into a metal box and throw him in the water. He will escape. Lock him up in a jail, handcuffed and helpless in any city in the world, Moscow, New York, Vienna, Paris, or Providence, Houdini will escape. Everyone was thunderstruck by Houdini, but children were especially delighted. Children want to be able to escape from their rooms when they're sent there for being bad. They want to make their dinner disappear and their parents vanish. They want to pull candy from their pockets without putting any in, turn their sisters into puppies and their brothers into frogs. Although some children want to turn their puppies and frogs into sisters and brothers. Children liked Houdini because he could do the unexplainable things that they wanted to do. Houdini was a magician. Magicians can do anything. Victor was 10. He wanted to be a magician too. When Victor was 8, he read in the newspaper that Houdini had escaped from an iron milk can in under 20 seconds. Victor found his grandmother's trunk and closed himself inside. The lock snapped shut behind him. He tried and tried, but he could not escape in under 20 seconds. In fact, he couldn't escape at all. So Victor cried and yelled until his mother came home and undid the locks. She was very upset that her son had shut himself up in grandmother's trunk. Victor was very upset that he couldn't get out. When Victor was 9, he found out that Houdini could hold his breath for over 5,000 seconds while escaping from a crate dropped into the ocean. If Houdini could hold his breath for 5,000 seconds in his crate in the ocean, then Victor could certainly hold his breath for 5,000 seconds in his tub in the bathroom. So during bath time, he put his head underneath the water and counted as fast as he could, but he never got to 5,000. His mother kept making him get out of the tub and breathe. Victor got this idea when he read that Houdini could walk through brick walls. Victor was sure he could do that. First, he tried walking slowly into a living room wall and pushing himself through. Nothing happened. Next, he tried backing up across the room and running through the wall. He almost broke the lamp, the table, a few pictures, and his nose, but he didn't make it to the other side. Later that evening, after many unsuccessful hours, Victor finally got through the wall. He used the door. Victor's mother was going crazy, unlocking her son from trunks, reminding him to breathe when he took a bath, and telling him not to walk into walls. She decided that she would take him to visit Aunt Harriet. Maybe a weekend in the country would calm him down. It was while they were traveling there that the most incredible thing happened. Victor was looking around the huge, bustling train station when he saw, way across the crowds, Harry Houdini himself buying tickets with his wife. Victor broke free from his mother's hand and ran straight to Houdini. He was filled with questions, millions and billions of questions, but which should he ask first? He took a deep breath, and this is what he said. How can I escape from my grandmother's trunk in under 20 seconds? How do I hold my breath in the tub without running out of air? Why can't I rock through a wall like you can? How do you escape from jails and handcuffs and ropes and they make elephants disappear? How? Congratulations, young man, interrupted the smiling magician. No one has ever asked me so many questions in such a short amount of time. Are you a magician? I want to be, said Victor. Houdini remained silent for several minutes. And after looking at Victor and then at his wife, he finally said, then listen, give me the tag from your suitcase. Why? Your name and address are on it. When I write you a letter, I'll need to know where to send it, won't I? Victor immediately undid the little buckle and handed the tag to Houdini. After reading it, the magician bent down so he was face to face with the boy. He whispered, you want me to tell you things I can't talk about in the middle of a busy train station. And if I'm not mistaken, I see your mother heading this way. It looks like you're going to get in trouble. So if you do, you can blame everything on me. And then grinning ever so slightly, he added, tell her Houdini tied you up for a moment. I'll write you a letter. Wait, just you wait. Houdini slipped the name tag into his pocket and disappeared into the crowd with his wife. The weekend in the country was not as peaceful as his mother had hoped. Her son was so excited about having seen Houdini that he locked himself in Aunt Harriet's dresser and in the cabinet of the wall, in the cabinet in her clock. He walked very fast into her walls and almost broke all of her framed photos. Aunt Harriet was not sad when they left. Back at home, Victor locked himself in the closet under the stair and his grandmother's 9 more times. Oh, how he hoped Houdini would write him quickly. Victor thought and dreamt about the magician's letter. When you're a boy expecting the secrets of the world to arrive in the mail, it's almost impossible to be patient. If only Victor were already a magician. A magician could make the letter appear out of thin air. But Victor was still just a boy, and patiently or not, he had to wait. And so he did. Until one day, when he was locked up tight inside an old suitcase, he finally heard his mother say, Victor, there's a letter here for you. She unlocked the suitcase and handed him the letter. The handwriting was thick and round and perfect. 1,000 secrets await you. Come to my house. Then Houdini gave the time and date for the meeting, but it seemed so far away. Victor knew he couldn't wait, so he went to the magician's house that very evening. Now, I love what Brian Selznick did, because if you look right here, you see a ghost. And it's perfect tie into the story for two different reasons, and I'll show you in just a minute. His hands were shaking as he knocked on the door. With a heavy sigh, it opened, and there before him, Harry Houdini's wife stood. Victor was suddenly too nervous to speak. He stood silently staring at the sad woman in the light of the doorway. She handed him some candy and softly asked, "So what are you supposed to be?" Well, Victor didn't understand what she meant until he saw a ghost, a cowboy, and two little goblins running down the street. In all of his excitement, he had forgotten that tonight was Halloween. That's why he saw the ghost. Maybe. And now he knew what he was supposed to be. "I'm a magician," he said, and he handed Miss Houdini a letter. Miss Houdini began to cry, and she asked him to please wait inside, vanished up the staircase into the magician's library, a dark place alive with books and dust and magical things. He held his breath, waiting for Houdini to greet him with outstretched arms and lead him back into that mysterious room. When someone finally appeared in the hallway, though, it was only Miss Houdini again, alone. She came to Victor and handed him a small locked box. And then she opened the front door. And as she showed him out, she whispered, "Houdini died today." The magician's wife closed the door and left Victor alone with the box. "Bye," he said to the door, and he went out into the streets towards home. That night, while he was trying to open the locks on the box with pins and all the small keys from the suitcases and clocks around the house, Victor found the owner's initial engraved on the bottom, E.W. This wasn't Houdini's box at all. The owner was some E.W. There could be no secrets in here. Now imagine as you read this, how it would feel if you had one dream, one hope, one mysterious wish, and then you saw it disappear into thin air. Well, that's how Victor felt. And that's why he did what he did next. He took the box that belonged to E.W. and buried it forever at the bottom of his closet. And as he closed the door, he made this promise: "Houdini is gone. I will never think about him again or try to do any of his tricks. Cross my heart and hope to die." And so Victor grew up and he got married. He and his wife had a child and they named him Harry. But in honor of Aunt Harriet, who had passed away one October long ago, he was not named in honor of a certain magician, because Victor said he never, not even once, thought about Houdini. One chill day, several years later, Victor and Harry were playing ball in a large field near a graveyard behind their house. Victor was pitching and Harry was swinging his bat, but he could never quite hit the ball. It was nearing dark and there was time for just one more try. Victor gave Harry a few last-minute batting tips, and then, with all the gentle power he had, threw the day's final pitch to his son. Harry closed his eyes, and at exactly the right moment, he swung his bat. He heard a loud crash, opened his eyes, and was amazed to see the ball fly through the sky and land somewhere in the middle of the graveyard. Victor congratulated his son, and together they climbed over the iron fence to look for the winning baseball. At last they found it, lying in the corner of a dark monument. Now, whether it had landed there by chance or by some strange, powerful magic, no one will ever know. But the ball that Victor's son had hit so perfectly had come to rest right on the grave of Houdini. Victor read the monument. Two small words appeared directly below Houdini, and Victor saw them over and over again because they seemed so familiar. It wasn't until he traced the first letters with his fingers that he understood what he was reading. This was Houdini's real name. Before he became Houdini, the magician had been a boy named Eric Wise, E.W. Victor's head spun, and he laughed out loud. Carrying his son, he ran out of the graveyard, through the baseball field, and into his own home. He was out of breath and crazy with excitement, but he couldn't tell his wife or his son what was going on. He waited until they were both fast asleep, and then he snuck upstairs into the attic. Victor found the forgotten box in a moonlit corner under a steady leak in the roof. He carefully picked it up and dried it off. His hand brushed across the lock, and it suddenly crumbled. The water had rusted through the thing completely. How easy it would be to open that box now. And that night, while his son and his wife slept downstairs, and the attic shadows vanished in the pale blue fall of moonlight, Victor locked himself inside his grandmother's trunk and escaped in under 20 seconds. Brian Selznick tells the best stories, and he did use quite a lot of true facts in them. One of the things that he did is that Houdini did die on Halloween. Houdini was known as one of the strongest men in the world, and he would challenge people to punch him in the stomach to see if he could take it. Well, one day on October 26th, he was with a bunch of students, and a young man came up and hit Houdini without giving him warning. Well, it terribly, terribly hurt Houdini, and he died within 3 days. He died on Halloween. Now, Houdini and his wife always thought that maybe he would be able to come back from the dead, and they say that she waited all of her life to get a signal from her husband. I hope you've enjoyed this book as much as I have. It's an old story, but ooh, it's a good one. Happy reading, everybody.